Welcome back to On the Hook. I'm Dylan, and today we're working with lionfish.
Hi, I'm Dylan Foster, and I love seafood. I've been in the Myrtle Beach area for more than 15 years, and since then, my life has revolved around seafood. From cooking and catching it, to serving and selling it, I've done just about everything you can do in this industry. So come and join me as we tour the places, faces, and tales of Myrtle Beach seafood. This is On the Hook.
Now let's talk about lionfish. First off, lionfish are absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at this fish with the lines and the colors, the fins. I mean, the detail on the fins is absolutely gorgeous. These long spines. I mean, that's a pretty fish. And that's why you find them in a lot of popular aquariums, either residential or commercial, the tourist attractions, those kinds of things. And that's where you see these things outside of the wild are aquariums. And they're really, really beautiful. But just as beautiful as they are, they're just as dangerous. And let's talk about that real quick. So if you see this, I'm going to be very careful here because these things are sharp. So lionfish come from the Eastern Pacific or the Indo-Pacific, so the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, that kind of area. That's where they naturally live. Since about 1985, though, they have been found here on our East Coast waters, from the Caribbean all the way up to New York, really, but typically around North Carolina, South Carolina, and south. And although they're beautiful, they're quite dangerous and hurtful to our coral reefs. And there's a couple reasons for that. First reason is they eat non-stop. They eat and reproduce non-stop. A mature female, can actually lay as much as 2 million, that's right, I said 2 million eggs a year. That's a lot of lionfish. And as they're laying 2 million eggs a year, nothing's eating them. They have no natural predators here in our water, so that makes them extremely dangerous to the balance of our ecosystem. Not to mention how dangerous they are to swimmers or scuba divers. And that is in cause to these spines. Can you see these spines here? Look at these. About 10 or 15 spines right up on the top here, and they are all razor sharp and like hypodermic needles. This fish is full of toxins and venom that make it like a really, really bad bee sting if you're allergic to bees, if you get stuck with one of these in the water. If you're scuba diving or snorkeling and you step in one or hit your hand or your foot or your ankle on one of these spines, let me tell you, you're gonna feel it the next day and for days to come. So very beautiful, but very, very dangerous fish in the water. And because of all of these spines and all of this venom that they have inside, they actually have zero natural predators here in our local East Coast waters, which is why we need to, as a people, continue to eat them. And that's why today we're gonna do a really nice recipe with one. After we get this thing all cleaned up, I'm gonna show you how to clean it, show you how to trim it safely, and then we're gonna make a really nice Asian-inspired dish to take this fish back to its roots with some sauteed bok choy and a really nice sweet and spicy orange glaze to go on top of that. So before we get started cutting this thing, make sure you like and subscribe that button down there so you can watch all of our other videos where we explore the places, faces, and tales of your Myrtle Beach seafood. So first off, the first thing you notice are obviously these long spines. We talked about how dangerous and how sharp they are, full of all of that venom. But when you look closely, you see all of these lines. It's got these zebra-like lines all the way up and down its body, from its tail all the way up to its head. And each lionfish is different. They all have a different pattern of lines and stripes on them, and that's really cool. And what I think is really fascinating is that when you look really closely at their eyeball, the lines through their body actually transition and match into their eye. So each eyeball of these lionfish is individual, which I think is just so cool. Such a cool design. And then on their face, if you can see that, they have these tiny little spines or barbs right on their face that kind of keep things from trying to want to munch down on their head. As a nice little defense mechanism, they have this really rigid bone structure, which makes it actually a really, really heavily boned fish. It actually has more bones than meat on this fish, which is kind of rare, especially for our waters. And then when you look at this, right on the inside of these giant pectoral fins, these giant beautiful pectoral fins, they all have a little bit of little white dots there. Right? You can't see them until you open them up, but they all have these little tiny white dots. Let's see this one. Check him out. He's got some, not quite as many. He's got a little down the spine. And this one, there you go. Again, not as many, but they all have a little bit of different marking patterns throughout, which makes them really cool. So this fish is completely whole. This is how they look in the water if you're snorkeling or diving, you have maybe seen them like this. And if you have, do me a favor in the comments, let us know where you've seen these fish in the wild. If you're lucky enough to see them in the wild, let us know. We would love to hear your stories. And if you haven't, but you've been lucky enough to eat it, let us know where you've eaten it, maybe here on the Grand Strand or beyond, or if you've cooked it at home, how did you cook it or prepare it there at home, or how did you have it in the restaurant? We'd love to hear all of your stories. We'd love to get to know you guys as you're getting to know us. So let's get started cutting this thing and making it safe for us to cut. So the first thing that we do is we're gonna do is cut all of these spines off. And they're not just on the top. We actually have dangerous spines right here underneath of the fish that you can see if you look closely, as well as down here. There's a couple of more spines. So not just the top that you have to worry about. Check this out. So when the fishermen are catching these fish in the water, they don't catch them with a hook and line. They catch them actually with a spear or like a trident on a long pole, and then they have this long net that they spike the fish and they stick them in the net. So they look like the guys on the side of the road, maybe cleaning up the trash or the litter that are on the side of the road. That's exactly how they catch these fish in the wild, except they're not walking, they're swimming. But you can see right here, this is a wound of where that trident went in, and that guy met his demise from that trident right there. That snorkeler, his name was Captain Ben. He's on fishing vessel Black Flag. And make sure you follow our other videos because we're gonna get to meet him very soon. But he swam up on this bad guy, bop, and popped him right into his net. Very, very cool how they catch these things. So let's go ahead and start trimming them up. So we're gonna take our nice heavy duty pair of scissors and we're gonna start trimming these spines off. I'm doing this here in our shop, but the fishermen actually do this out on the water because these spines are so dangerous and so sharp that they don't want to store them in their ice while they're fishing, because then they can get spiked. So they actually take the risk and they trim these things out in the water. So the fishermen who are catching these fish really are taking on most of, if not all of the risk from getting hit by these things. So not only is it important to eat them because they destroy our ecosystem, but we need to show the fishermen who are risking themselves to bring us these fish and to save our ecosystems. They're working really hard to do it, so let's make sure we respect them and eat as much as we possibly can. So we trim the top off, we trim these bottom pectoral fins off that also have a couple of spikes, and the last little bit we need to trim off is this little fin here, which has a couple of spikes there. So just with some scissors, they look rough and they are very sharp, but they're not very tough to cut through. They're kind of hollow, so they cut really easily with a pair of scissors, like you saw. And there you go. That now is a completely safe and much easier to handle lionfish. I'm not worried about getting spiked or stuck now. These pectoral fins don't have any sharp spines on them, so they will stay on. And when we cook this fish, if you cook it whole, sometimes these fins will kind of puff up and make really kind of like bat wings, almost like the Batman of the fish. And they'll kind of spread out as you're cooking it, so they make a really pretty presentation. Well, now that it's clean, now we're gonna start cutting it. Just clean our board and the space off a little bit. We'll start slicing them up. So this fish here is completely intact. It does have all of his intestines inside. We're gonna be very careful not to pop any of that. This is one of the fish that actually stays fresher longer the more intact it is. Not every fish is like that. Some fish go bad very quickly if you leave the intestines in. Some fish, like this one, actually stay fresher longer if you leave the entire body cavity intact. So that's why this guy is completely round. So we're gonna start here on the very top and cut through this rib bone here, this ridge. And just like the other fish that you've seen us cut from our other episodes, it's got the spine that goes down the middle, and then these finger bones and the rib cage that come off. So it'll give us a roadmap as we're cutting it. So we'll start here at the top and come in very carefully all the way down. Nice long smooth strokes. All the way down to the tail. And we're not going really far deep into the fish right now. We're just going right underneath the skin so we can access that meat. Oh, and boy, is that meat good. It's nice and firm and a little sweet. Very versatile and extremely delicious. So long strokes here. We're just going to pull down. Listen to our music here. Can you hear that? That's what we're looking for. So now we have it all the way down to the spine. You can see that spine right there. Peeling the meat up, and the spine is right here. Those finger bones are there. We're gonna bring our knife onto the other side of the spine and start just peeling that meat right off of that side. All right, so just slow. That head is still sharp, so you don't wanna get stuck with those spikes on the face. They might not be venomous, but they are still sharp. So now that we have it peeled off the bottom ribs and the top rib bones, The spine is right there. We're just gonna turn our knife and pop up right through. It's got about 5 or 6 little rib bones that are holding that onto the rib cage. So we're just gonna quickly, with a knife angle down, just pop through those ribs right there. Make sure we got it. There we go. All right. And now we'll just rinse and repeat on the other side. The exact same process and procedure as before. Here we go. Right down through that skin, all the way down the tail. All right. Just through the meat. Now we'll just slowly take it off of those bones until we get to that spine again. There we go. You hear it again? A little nicer on this side. All right, all the way down. Turn that knife. Get on the other side of that spine. All the way down. Come out the tail. All right, so we're here. Come out there. Here we go, completely detached on the bottom and the top. Now we'll just get these rib bones, kind of go back. Whoa, see? The face got me. It's really sharp. It didn't cut me, but it sure did pop my glove. That's what I was talking about. You still got to be very, very careful. So real quick, just going to take these rib bones and get through there. Just a couple. Here we go. One. There we go. Right through those rib bones. Did not pop the intestinal cavity, which is what we're looking for. And now, just pull this pectoral fin backwards. Feel where that bone structure for the face meets the meat in the fillet. That is where we're going to go in right with our knife. Make one nice cut here down to the spine, and then follow that line all the way down through to the bottom of the fillet. Right here. Whoop, all the way out. And there you go. First lionfish fillet off the bone there. All right, beautiful skin on this side. Beautiful white, firm meat there. We're going to clean that up. Let's get this other one off. Just like we did before. Meet that bone structure of the face, all the way down. And there you go. There you have it. Fillet number 2 of this amazing local lion fish. Dangerous predator, dangerous for our local ecosystem, but absolutely delicious on the plate. And that's what we're gonna do next time here on The Hook, where we're gonna take this local lionfish and turn it into a really awesome Asian-inspired dish with some baby bok choy and a really sweet but spicy orange glaze sauce. So make sure you like and subscribe our videos so you can come back and check that out, where we explore more of the places, faces, and tales of your Myrtle Beach seafood. See you then.
Beach easy.